So, Ash, you know a thing or two about building a platform for ideas. You're the founder of Brilliant Mind, a conference celebrating 10 years this year, and that has brought cultural icons, global leaders, and artists to Sweden. And I was so happy when you said yes to have this conversation with me. And I just have to ask, how thrilled were you when Barack Obama said yes to come to Brilliant Minds?
Well, extremely, of course. He was at the very top of our list of people that we wanted to bring, so it's a big achievement. And personally, for me, it was definitely one of the highest, moments of pride, I would say, to have him here.
Yeah, super. So, how in the world do you convince all these people, these leaders, very, very busy people, to come to this cold little northern capital that we love to call home? We love Stockholm, of course. But what do they think of us?
Well, it's not like they don't have options. To get them to take 2 days out of their schedule or three to come to Sweden at the same time, it's quite I would say it's a team effort for sure, but it's also the attention to detail that we have around just making sure that they're very comfortable all the way from when they arrive until they leave, and we show them the best time possible, aside from just the conference alone.
So you hit the global stage as manager behind Avicii. Wake Me Up has over 4 billion collective streams. That's insane. And more than 10 million sold copies. What is it with that sound that you created that still appeals so much to us? And what's your role in music today?
I mean, first of all, when it's a very deliberate choice to make the sound appealing to mass audiences. We wanted it to be accessible and appealing to no matter if you were 2 years old or 102 years old. And obviously the proof is in the pudding. We have extremely popular music catalog behind Avicii, but it's something that I wish that I could spend more time on today. I don't have enough time to kind of sit serenely and work on production. It's something that I'm planning to go back to at some point, but there's so many other things that I found that I needed to do. So, still is.
But music is still important to you today.
Yeah, it always will be. I mean, it's the reason I got into, obviously that side of things, but no matter what I do, I try to incorporate music somehow because it's always there.
So you built a career on seeing kind of what's around the corner, whether it's sound, music, or building cultures. What are you paying attention to now?
I mean, it's funny because AI is kind of labeled as a buzzword sometimes, but it's not a fly. It's not a trend. It's here to stay. And I haven't really witnessed anything be so disrupted to so many industries. Doesn't matter if you're in hardware or services or obviously in technology. It's disrupting our day-to-day lives, and down to the core of individuals and how it affects us and influences us on a daily basis. I don't think people realize at scale how much it's already influencing, and then obviously how much it will influence. So I'm very concerned with that, and I'm
What
trying
is it
to.
we're not seeing?
I had two conclusions. Once Gen AI came, I've been following it. People maybe don't know this about me, but I've been following the space for a long time. Like even when I was in music, I tried to create AI products. It's much more difficult at the time, but since then the technology has taken leaps. And when Gen AI hit, I had two conclusions quite immediately. One was that okay, it's a distribution game now. It's not about technology anymore. It's becoming commoditized. So whoever has distribution will win. And in the consumer side, we know who has distribution. It's big tech. So it's very difficult to compete with them. If it was already extremely difficult to compete in consumer tech, I don't know if 10x that is even enough, but it's much more difficult, especially over time. People who develop these models, they admit themselves they can't see beyond 2 years. They don't really know. They're always surprised by what the model is capable of. So it tells you a lot about how uncertain the futures become. The second thing that I concluded was that the product game is over. It's very difficult to compete with products. So you have to start thinking services. And so this is what I'm trying to teach the companies that I'm involved in and the people that I get involved in and things that I do myself.
As you say, attention is kind of easy to get, but really, really hard to keep. So building that community and trust that you try to do around products, what's your secret sauce for that?
I think one of those things that is sustainable is building communities. Obviously, within communities, people don't want to see a bot or anything that isn't verified. A real person. So I've built my career on building communities, and I see that will still be something that people will want to appreciate and will want to belong to. And whether it's Nordic Angels or these other communities that I've been part of building, I tend to say that to everyone that. There's two aspects of growing a business. One is you can buy eyeballs, but then they disappear, and then you have to buy them back. And there's zero loyalty in buying eyeballs. But when you build communities around something that's much more important, much bigger, then you start investing in them, and there's a huge return on that because you can start building community loyalty, and people value what you're offering in a way different way than if you're transacting to get them on board.
So a great product is not enough anymore. You need to build that community.
Yeah, that's what I usually talk about. When it comes to marketing, there's obviously different ways to do it. My way has always been to build communities around something bigger than just the product.
But is loyalty something that you can design for, or does it have to kind of emerge?
I mean, both. I think there is definitely an understanding of how to do it and then applying it, but it has to be authentic because otherwise you see through it quite quickly. I think it's difficult to fake, so you have to be, genuine in your approach and ambition.
Would you say that there are many companies succeeding with this today?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think the influencer culture has opened up a lot of these incumbents seeing how quickly they can rise in numbers just by being authentic and driving something bigger than just a product. There's so much more behind usually when they build their brands, and I think there's a lot of lessons in that for sure.
So you always, as we said, seen things around the corner and been early, seeing things before us. So what is then the next big idea? You're talking a lot about AI and where tech is going. And you're building this new platform called Superhuman. Could you tell us a little bit what that is all about?
Yeah, so for me, it started when I delved into AI, and I noticed that of all the experts, they felt everyone felt different about the future, but they all agreed that it will drastically change our future, and it'll either be very detrimental or it'll be very positive. On the other side of what when I talk about superhuman, I'm talking about the next phase of human evolution. We built this environment that isn't natural to our body and not natural to our mind. The fast pace, the abundance of everything you can eat. So the next phase has to be accelerated. We can't wait for human evolution to take its natural course. And there are different disciplines on what that means. Some try to increase your lifespan, longevity, and make you healthier for longer, and even increasing your natural potential lifespan. The other side is merging humanity with technology, like Neuralink, projects like that. And this is what we're talking about on the Superhuman platform, the next phase and the accelerated human evolution.
So you said it's hard to see more than 2 years, ahead. So when are you looking and seeing that this might happen?
I mean, it's a longer ambition, but there's no certainty beyond, the closer future. So we're doing this now. We're rallying up all the interest around this topic under that brand, and we're just lifting initiatives and educating people on what's out there and trying to guide them on finding something that appeals to them and where they feel that they are convinced that
and the interest is there for sure.
Oh, for
I
sure.
mean, there is so much money rushing into this business. Tell us a little bit about the global interest.
I mean, the wellness industry is $6.3 trillion. Appreciate. I mean, it's blowing everyone's mind of how quickly that is growing, and it'll keep growing. When it comes to all these new initiatives, they're also unknowns. I mean, they could blow up very quickly and offer solutions that we've only dreamt about. And there's certain people that take it to the extreme, but even if you don't, there's so much happening thanks to the technology that just helps us solve so many difficult problems that seemed impossible before. So I'm super excited about what's about to
You
come.
seem very optimistic.
I have to be, what's the option? So if I'm a builder, which I am, I have to be optimistic. Otherwise, it's difficult to tap into that energy that's required to do anything.
So how can then, because we talked about community, and you a very strong believer of belonging, and so am I. So I'm just a little bit curious how your mind goes around that. How do we become superhuman and still keep that sense of belonging and community?
Well, one trend that I've seen, and I don't know if it's a trend or if it's here to stay, but I would bet that it's here to stay, is that when everything becomes fake or potentially fake, people skew towards the physical, the real. There's so many indicators of that, of how live concerts have gone up in popularity, and how people actually spend more time in physical communities rather than continue the same growth online. So I have a lot of optimism there as well. I think that's something that will be sustained for sure.
So can we then build a future that is smarter, faster, whatever it is that we're striving for, and still kind of not lose each other?
Everything is a balance. You know, at the moment, it's hard to say how maybe the mass market will behave, but I'm an avid believer that there's always options and there's always solutions. If you really want to tap out, you can. You don't have to live fully plugged in if you don't want to. So there are always options. Now the question is where you balance that with everything else that you want access to.
Are you going for that option? Superhuman
Well,
option?
I'm listening, and I'm digging and I'm reading up and researching a lot. But I'm blessed to be able to open a lot of doors and learn a lot from amazing people.
What's the one thing that you learned that you never thought of? Tell us something.
Um, what big question. I think lately for me the thing that really has occupied my mind is how you decentralize empowerment. In these communities, how you can choose to move out of mass media and still be like still feel like you're part of the community that you want to belong to, and that you're still read up on whatever your interest is. So these niche communities where you decide that, okay, I don't want to play the big game, I don't want to listen to everything, this is where I have my interest. That's something that I think will grow, and that's how I'm living my life.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about you and your family, because I know that your mother came to Sweden alone with three kids.
Yeah, we were with her, so she wasn't
Yeah, with three
yeah.
kids, but alone, single mom. What did you learn from her, watching her rebuild her life?
um Resilience for sure, in how difficult it must have been, and I didn't realize until I got much older, but how the impossible wasn't really impossible, and how there's so much strength in an individual's character when there's so much on the line, and there's no other option but to keep at it.
Has that helped you in your career?
Oh, definitely. I'm just watching her and seeing how she solved a lot of very difficult problems. I think shaped me a lot. So I find that I'm the same. I like difficult problems and taking them on.
You always said that being fearless is something that you are and that you value. So where does that come from, that fearlessness?
I think this is something I think is I would say that it's applicable to a lot of people's lives that live through trauma or live through something difficult, that you realize that and in the end of it you survived. And there's this cliche that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but um, there's so much truth in that, because a lot of fear stems from thinking that it's worse than it actually is. And once you come out on the other side of that and you realize you still survived, you still can accomplish great things, other things, you can continue with whatever ambitions you still have, no matter how bad it felt before. Those are the things that obviously I've lived it so many times now that I feel like I'm a bit protected from even going into thinking anything else. But I just think that's so valuable to expose yourself to risk, take it, and then realize there's a life after that as well.
So you have kids, so do I, three of them, and sometimes, I find it a bit hard to explain the world to them right now with all that's going on. What do you tell your kids about the future?
I think what I've told them since they were young, something I realized was that the most important thing is to learn how to learn new things, because then they can shape their future. There's so many opportunities now to learn whatever you want. There's tools, there's videos, there's access in a way that never existed before. So that's what I've tried to teach them is the basic skill that you have to learn is how to learn new things, at least. And then, I had this thing when I grew up where I didn't know how I was going to raise my kids, but once I had them, I knew that all I want for them is to be happy. I don't really care if they do what I want or not, as long as they're happy. That's the ultimate
You realize
win.
this is going to be on tape, so they can quote you on that.
I've told them, so it's all good. It's all good.
So
They're already quoting me on it.
Oh, okay. So you shaped artists, brands, platform that reached millions of people. Finally, I just want to know what shapes you, what keeps your fire lit.
I'm driven by my curiosity. So, and then that'll always be the case. I keep creating problems for myself because I dive into new things and I start new things, and then I sit there with too much to do on my plate. But it's just the only way that I've lived my life. I'm driven by my curiosity, and there's so many things to be curious about. So, it's a dangerous place to be in when it's like that.
Well, we're super curious to follow where everything goes and what happens to the superhuman Ash Pournouri. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing this first TEDx conversation with
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.
Give a warm hand to Ash Pournouri.